There was just a moment that happened where he talked about losing his dad. He said, Maddox, I haven't cried yet. That almost made me cry. It's just meeting Leo where he was on that emotional place.
They just need a friend.
Yeah, a friend. And just taking away that assumption that the church is just this pretty perfect place for put together people. It's not.
This week on the Reach Podcast. All right, welcome back to the Reach Podcast. Today, I've got a very special guest, Maddox Womble, and Maddox is on Search's staff in Dallas, Texas. Maddox, thanks for being here, man.
I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay,
Blaine.
what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about a friend of mine named Leo in Dallas and how we met and just where he is on his spiritual journey.
I kind of met a famous Leo.
Oh, tell me about that.
Recently, you might have heard of him. He's the Pope.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And
not in Dallas.
I didn't actually meet him, but we were in Rome, and we're sitting there eating gelato in front of the Vatican.
Nice.
A whole other story for another day. But we're sitting there, and all of a sudden he drives by in the Pope Mobile waving. We're like, he's right there. He was
just hanging
15
out.
feet from us. Yeah, it was
Leo.
Pretty wild. But anyway, this
How
is a
awesome.
different Leo that you're talking
This
about.
is a different, way younger Leo.
Okay.
And it's a really cool story, so I'm excited to share and talk about it.
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah. So I'm 40 years old. Leo's probably 27, 28, I would say. And in Dallas, we are hosting an event, a search event, and we got about 150 people in the room. And we needed somebody to photograph the event and take pictures that we could use and just capture the moment. And so people are up on stage. We're talking about God. We're talking about questions that matter. And after the event, Leo comes up to one of my colleagues, Katie, and says, hey, I heard what someone shared on stage about these questions that they have in their heart and how Search provides a place to talk about them. And he goes, I have those questions. I think I have every single one. And he goes, would someone be willing to meet with me about those? And here's a guy who indirectly just was, trying to probably make a buck. And, he's a great photographer. I saw the pictures. They were awesome. And he nailed it. But he was really drawn to what was happening in our event. And so it was awesome how we connected.
That's really cool. So you got to meet with him.
Yes.
And where do you guys connect for the first time?
So here is also the cool part. So we were talking at the event. We talked on the phone, and he told me a little bit about his upbringing and his background. And he said, Maddox, I haven't been to church in years, decades. And I said, I just had this thought. I go, what would you think about meeting at the church that I go to in Dallas? What would you think about stepping foot in there just so I could show you that it's not this perfect, pretty, it is beautiful, but this perfect put together place where, real people, authentic people are hanging out and having coffee. Mm-hmm. And Leo has some tattoos on him, and so did the church baristas that we call church coffee. And he was like, I'm up for that. And we met there for the first time after our event, a month or so later, and he was just, I think the perception that he had of church and this vibe that he was expecting was total opposite, and it was fun. And he was like, I was trying to give him a little tour. We grabbed coffee, and we found a little place to sit, and I just got to hear Leo's story, and it's an awesome one. Just how artistic he is and what he's thinking about and what he's studying and how he got into photography. And it was just cool. And then I learned eventually, when we're peeling back the onion in conversation in the church that he's never stepped foot in. And there was just a moment that happened where he talked about losing his dad. And he talked about how last year he has two siblings and he lost his dad. And he said, Maddox, I haven't cried yet. And that almost made me cry in the moment, but it's where he is. And I wanted to, right then and there, just first of all say, Leo, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that happened. I can't imagine what you're going through. And it's just meeting Leo where he was on that emotional place. Not spiritual yet. We didn't get into those topics yet. But just first, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Is that what led to some of his questions going through the death of his father?
I think so. And we've had many conversations since that first really big meeting. And I would say that I've said this before to him, like we've scraped the Milky Way, right? We've talked about the universe. Is it eternal? Is it not eternal? But, I think if we're talking about the Search 1, 2, 3 and the three barriers to faith, and the first one being the emotional barrier, what is the Search answer to that? Is relationship, is love. And I just, this is where the rubber meets the road. I was tasked for the first time in this new relationship with Leo to love him. And how can I do that? Like literally, how could I love Leo the best way in this conversation is just to listen, right? Not to provide some cookie cutter answer or to say the right thing, or to say there's a reason for this or that. I don't know. I don't have those answers, but to just listen and create this environment where just what is on your heart, Leo? Tell me what you're thinking about now. Like, how are you feeling now?
Yeah, that's a really good posture.
Yeah.
To have. And what's great about that too is anybody can do it. That's part of why we do this podcast. It's like taking some of the mystery away from sharing your faith and just talking to people about faith. You can relax a little bit. You can just take it where it goes. Love people when they have these emotional barriers, and they're usually fairly easy to identify. A tragic event happens. Right. They had a bad experience with any kind of organized religion that they transpose onto Christianity or anything else. You can see some of these. They just need a friend.
Yeah, a friend, and just taking away that assumption that the church is just this pretty perfect place for put together people. It's not, right? And as someone has said before, right, if you find the perfect church and then attend, it's no longer perfect. And it's a joking, like this is it's a place where people can be authentic and come as you are. And I wanted Leo to experience that, and I think I accomplished that goal. And we had fun time in there.
Yeah,
we talked for 2 hours.
Let me ask you this question, because it's not our normal tack to say, hey, the first place I want to get together with a friend of mine is at a church coffee shop when we know they're wrestling with faith or question or not a Christian. So what led you to do that meeting spot? And is that something you normally do, or is that just you just felt it and it was like, I think this is where we should go this time?
Well, if we're sharing our faith and we're trusting God, we're trusting the Holy Spirit to work in someone's heart, someone's life. And I don't usually meet with people who don't believe at a church, but just I felt so confident in the environment that our church offers with real people who have real stories about their faith journeys, and saw Leo connecting with some of the other guys. And so it was just fun. And so I really just went out on a limb, and I think it helped, just maybe in some small way, him trust a little bit more, whether a church was part of his emotional hurt or not. Just being there and seeing, hey, this, it's not going to hurt you now. It's a really cool, I would think, cool place to just have coffee and sit. It's a beautiful building. But when we're sharing the gospel with someone, when you get there, that was my point with Leo, is to tell him that God's not done with them, right? Just because these tragic things happen in your life, you're sharing the gospel with someone, you're really telling them that you love them too in that way, that there's hope. Right, the gospel equals hope, and I've found with Leo and his story that he was really just struggling to see that how is anything good going to happen in my life now, right? This broken family environment, this probably lost trust with God in that way, and I've been there. I know what that's like to a certain extent. We all experience grief. It's just part of being a human being. We all are going to lose someone that we love. It's just a hard fact of life. But how can I offer Leo hope in that moment that God knows exactly where he is on this journey?
Yeah. And so what did it look like moving forward with him?
Yeah. He lives in a different neighborhood in Dallas. And so the last time that we met at a coffee shop in, his neck of the woods. And he had more questions really too about, he said he's exploring Buddhism. And I said, great. What'd you learn? He said, we talked about world religions. We talked about the age of the universe, which we revisited from the first time. Then he also asked a great question that I find myself talking about here and there. Is like, what about those who haven't heard? Right? How is God going to reach the people on that island, right, or in that faraway place? How does that seem fair? Right? Maddox, you grew up in Dallas in a Christian household. Like, how is that? You're a little bit different than those people. So we had a great discussion about that.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, do you think he's getting more of an intellectual barrier versus emotional still? Like, are these genuine questions of his?
Yeah. And so Leo's got them all. I think with the main barrier being, I don't know if I can trust God with some of the hurt that I've experienced in my life. And then it's like that can lead to all other questions, right? Well, then it's what about this? What about that? But I think the big one being, can I trust God?
Yeah,
and
that's a big one.
And so it's an opportunity for me to trust God in the process of Leo's heart change. And my posture is meeting Leo where he is on his journey, and then trusting the Holy Spirit to really change his heart and lead him, whether it's through more relationships. I know I'm not the only one probably in Leo's life talking to him about spiritual topics or questions that matter. And, it's like the analogy of the glass and the drops. I'm just a drop in Leo's glass. And if I get a front row seat to watching that spill over into his newfound faith, like what a celebration that would be. But maybe I'll never see that. I hope to be walking and hanging out with Leo and talking about this stuff. To see that would be awesome. But I just trust God that he's doing the real work.
Yeah. Well, we know that he is, and that's part of the process for any of us who want to share our faith. Is we know it's God's job. At the end of the day, we can't control whether somebody believes in Jesus or not. That's God's job.
Yeah.
And so it makes this really zero pressure when we talk about sharing our faith, because it's not up to us to really do anything except be faithful and talk to the people that God puts in our lives as appropriate, as Jesus would, and trust him with the results.
Yep.
So if you're to take everything you've learned from this interaction and you just boil it down to like one takeaway that you want people to leave with, to go, okay, I'm going to try to remember this from this podcast today, what would that takeaway be?
Great question. I'm going to have to say that the art of listening well is so important, because so often I find myself wanting to talk, and some of the best conversations I feel like I've had is when I'm talking the most, and that's the wrong way to sit with somebody, especially if someone's gone through a hard thing. I want to do barely any talking, if not asking the right questions to help get that emotion out of someone so they can heal and bring that before the Lord. And so I think that's the takeaway is learning, catching yourself when, instead of maybe having an answer, and maybe people know this instinctively. I had to learn this over time, but how to just listen to what, for this story, Leo is saying. And man, just sometimes I'm here with you. I'm just sitting in that. It can be sometimes awkward and quiet, but just being able to listen is so important. And when I read the Bible stories and I read about Jesus, I feel like he asked more questions than he did answer them. And I think that's another beautiful example of how we don't have to have a perfect answer. And sometimes there's just no answer for why bad things happen. But we can trust the God who who made us and who's in control of that, and just listening well.
Yeah, I love it. Love it, love it. Thank you, Maddox.
Yeah, thank you.
Great observations. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Reach Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. That'd be a good idea. Share it with a friend and leave us a review to help others find the podcast. Now, for more resources, please visit reachothers.org and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we'd love to hear from you.